Hello and welcome to the Red Thread with me, Catrice Horsley. If you've just jumped on to this episode, which is episode 6 in the series and the last episode, in fact, the Red Thread is all about exploring why we believe what we believe about ourselves. What is the red thread of identity that forms our core narrative, and where did that come from? And why do we still believe it? And half of us don't even realize that this belief about ourselves is there because it was given to us when we were much younger and we just swallowed stuff without questioning what was said. So the series has been all about that, and there is also an Instagram page of the same name, and hopefully there will be a book coming out all about this too. So this episode is all about little daily things that we can do to remind ourselves of our red thread and to prompt us into changing those behaviors and beliefs that we have. Um, I'm pretty lucky in that I've always written stuff down. I've always written, and I've got journals from when I was 12, which are all terribly self-indulgent. It's like, oh God, my life is so terrible. Um, and no responsibility for anything that was happening during those times. But I've always written, and I would say to anybody, even if you don't feel that you are a writer, literally having a notebook to jot down stuff in the morning or the evening about what you've done, what you'd like to do, any thoughts that you've had is really, really, really useful. And I've got different types of notebooks, journals. I have, because I'm because I'm a freelance worker. Um, I can get really confused about where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, on what I should be doing on any of the days. So I have like a daily organizer journal, which is a bullet point one. And I do always do little doodles or pictures because I'm thinking while I'm doodling. I mostly copy stuff off Pinterest. None of it is particularly self-created. I'm quite good at copying things. Um, and in this journal, what I do is, let me see, I have um, a monthly kind of, there you go. I do each month, you can't see it very well, there you go, like that. So that's the stuff for the month. And what I want to do in that month, what I want to achieve, write the blog, get the newsletter out, etc. And I do daily ones. And at the end of every month, I look at what I've achieved in that month. So I might have had some stuff that I really wanted to achieve that I didn't, but I don't even look at that. I only look at what I have accomplished in that month. I don't look back and go, oh shit, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do that. Literally at the end of the month, I think, what have I done this month? What have I accomplished? And I might have some ideas for what I would like to do the next month. So I kind of put it out there, that imagined self, that future vision. And even if I don't keep on going back to that and saying, have I done it yet? Have I done it yet? Have I done it yet? Simply the act of writing it down and thinking it makes a difference. So I have the monthly ones and the daily ones, and then I have a weekly one. So I know what I'm doing that week, theoretically. Um, if you have got a very regular job that you go to every day and most days are the same, and you get up at a certain time, you have a certain breakfast, you leave at a certain time, you might not need all of that shit that I need there. So it could just be giving yourself a little bit of time in the day to write down what you've achieved that day and what you might want to focus your thoughts on for the next week or the next day or the next month. So journaling really helps you become aware of not just where you would like your focus of attention to be, but also what you have achieved. And as I say, I never, which perhaps I should, but I don't, I never keep on going back and looking at what I had decided to do. I kind of have a general idea, and I then at the end of the month write what I have accomplished. You notice that I haven't talked about a year there. What I do at the start of every year, and it's in a different journal, is I write a letter to myself as though I've done everything I want to do, that I read at the end of that year. So I don't have resolutions as such, but I write a letter, something like, well done, Catrice, you worked really hard this year. COVID still affected you. And in spite of that, you did the red thread and you continued with the VIS group, and you did this and you did this and you did this. And you've managed to sketch out the ideas for the red thread book, and you've identified some publishers that you'll send it to. Catrice, you also work really well on your health and well-being, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the year, I read that as though, and I kind of look at it and think, oh, actually, I did do quite a few of those things, but I don't keep on going back to it to make sure I've done it. I kind of just write it down, and at the end of the year, see whether any of that is true. And to be truthful, usually about 70% of it has happened and has been accomplished in some bizarre way. And again, I think, and I talked about it in the previous episode, this idea of the power of intention, thinking about being where you want to be and how you want to be, and articulating it makes a real difference, because you start to recalibrate your vision and recognize the things that you want to happen on this kind of subconscious level. So, first daily practice, if you want to choose it, is the idea of writing down, jotting down notes, not being a writer, not doing artwork if you don't want to, just writing down or jotting down notes. If you don't like writing, voice messages, voice memos, and that's really lovely to hear play back at the end of the week. You can give yourself, like half an hour on the Sunday morning and hear what your intentions and plans were each day, and reflect back on your week and what you've done. And audio recordings are wonderful. And then some of you will say, I don't like my voice. Then you can write stuff down instead. The other thing that I quite like doing, and I've only recently got into this, is lighting a candle. And somehow in the lighting of the candle, and knowing that the candle is lit in the room, it reminds me of the fact that I want to value myself more. Lighting a candle reminds me visually, and just the act of it, and I suppose there's something quite ritualistic about lighting candles, it reminds me of the fact that I am worthy of my own valuing, that I should value myself and the work that I do. I've always been quite good with marking achievements in my life. Even when I was single, when I was living alone, if I'd done a really good tour, or if I'd come back from a international trip abroad where I was working, quite often when I flew back into Birmingham, they've got a Marks and Spencer's at the airport, and I would pop in and I'd buy like one of those little cheap bottles of bubbles, Prosecco or Cava or whatever, just a smallish one. And I'd get back to my little flat, put it in the freezer, run a bath, perhaps, I don't know, I'd probably bought something else in the shop, like perhaps some crackers and something, and put those by the side of the bath. Bath was run, had some bubbles in it, go and get that little bottle of bubbles and sit in the bath with my bottle of bubbles and me crackers and go, well, bloody done, Catrice. Well done, woman. Because you don't need other people to tell you that you've done well. It's not dependent on them. It's dependent on you recognizing it. So this idea of marking, acknowledging, and celebrating your achievements and what you've done, I think is also a good practice to have. So journaling, lighting candles, having a little private party to celebrate your achievements. The other thing, and I've mentioned this throughout this series, the red thread, is having something on you to remind you. So I have this red thread because it constantly reminds me to keep my boundaries in place, to say no if I really don't want to do something, to give worth to my work, to recognize that exercising and training isn't about getting a better body. It is actually about valuing myself, Catrice, as a human being, as an entity, because without my body, it's going to be difficult for me to do the kind of stuff that I would love to do. And what happens to my body impacts on my brain and my emotions. So this is a constant daily prompt and reminder. And as I've said in the past, it is not just for me. My husband, bless him, will say to me, you know, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Follow your red thread, because he sees it every single day. It's there when I move my hands and when I'm talking. So that's another thing that you can do. I think it's a more difficult one because it's more subtle and we're often less conscious of it. But the other thing that is very, very useful is to become more aware of what your body's saying to you. I am often aware of this here. If I'm tense, I'm often aware of my angry foot. I have an angry foot. My kids used to say, oh shit, the angry foot's out. So I'd have my one leg crossed over the other and I go, no, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. I think what you should, and my foot was like, because I was so pissed with something or somebody, but my face was like, no, absolutely, lovely, fine, great. But the foot was like, no, 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 no. And to be aware of that and to actually stop and think, no, I need to trust people to hear the truth of how upset or hurt I am because that boundary has been crossed. So I've got my shoulders, tension, I've got my angry foot. And the other thing I have is this, in actual fact, this is not a smile. This is me clamping my lips together and swallowing back 10,000 words that I want to say, but I'm not going to say, but I'm furious about something. And I'm like, and you can see my cheekbones more. If you see the cheekbones and if you see the lip clammed together a little bit, you know that I'm definitely holding something back. And sometimes I think it's okay to do that because I need to mull about or think about where the trigger for that has come from, because it might not be the person who I'm talking to, it might be some previous relationship and some thing that's hit something that's sensitive for me. So sometimes I need to go away and think about it and then come back when my mouth is a little bit more relaxed and then say, this is what happened. So our body and becoming aware of our body can help us realize that we are holding on to something. And the next step would be to become curious about what we're holding on to and where that comes from, and whether that is a positive or whether that is a negative. And as I say, that's a harder one to do if we are not very aware of those things because they're so intrinsic in us. But I really feel that so much of this work is about, at the same moment in time, somehow going into ourselves to become aware of the emotions, of our bodies, of our thoughts, and then stepping out of ourselves to ask the questions, to become curious, and to observe ourselves and find out where those things are coming from and what they're attached to in the warp and weft, in the fabric of our behaviors and our beings. I would love you to share some of your daily practices with me. Are the things that you do on a daily basis that really help you start the day with a particular intention or finish the day with a particular intention? I love the idea of finishing my day with what I've done in the day, what I've achieved in the day. And those can be really simple things like I noticed the bird song today. I played with the dog today. They don't have to be major things. And, talking about that, one of the things that I've been thinking of quite a bit recently is what we choose to mark and what we choose to notice, and how that reflects on how we give ourselves worth and show ourselves love, and how we show worth and love to other people. Because, and some of you might know about this, there are different ways of showing love. One of the ways, I knew a lovely elderly couple who'd been together for years and years and years and years. And he would show his love for his wife by doing things like, I don't know, fixing the vacuum cleaner, putting oil on the things that needed oil on, just making sure that everything worked in the house. And she would show love by making very special meals and putting special little things that he liked on his sandwiches, and they weren't big event people. It's not like he would buy her loads of stuff for her birthday, or she would do big parties for him, or that they would go dancing, or they would have date nights, or any of that stuff. It was these tiny little daily things that they did that formed the rich golden chain of their love together. And they both somehow recognize that in each other. Yet some of us, if we might feel that we show love and worth, or we want to be shown it, by big things. I don't know, like date nights, like parties, like meals, like holidays, like going out for romantic weekends. And we want that because that's how we show love as well. Quite often with our partners, we might choose to do something like this special weekend away. And that's how we show our love. And often the way we show our love is the way we want to be shown love. And then others might show love by making sure the house is clean and tidy, or might show love by just stroking the shoulder of your love when you walk past them, or might show love by saying it, might show love by the touches, might show love by being curious about the person's day and asking about what happened and being really interested in how they make sense of their lives, because it can be so different to how you make sense of your life. And if we can't accept that there are different ways of showing love, it can be really hard. So perhaps another thing, which doesn't have to be a daily practice, but another thing that can help us, not in just identifying our red thread, but in recognizing and understanding the red threads of others, is becoming aware of how they show their love for you and reflecting that back to them in the same way. And then having this conversation with them about how you show your love for them, and saying to them just occasionally, I'd love for you to reflect it back in the same way. I know it's not the way you show love, but I love it when that happens. And it's not that one person's wrong or one person's right. We're both showing love. But if we are not able to recognize when love is being shown by the curiosity, by the daily practice, by those little daily events that happen, then we can end up making up a different story. So I'm going to end it there, and that's the end of this series. As I said earlier, please share with me your daily practices, what you do to remind you of your value and your worth and the power of your story. And also, I'd be really curious to find out how you like love to be shown to you, and worth and value, and how you like to show it to others. Let's see if they're the same, because I think they might be. Okay, remember to subscribe to the channel. I'm having a little break over the summer, and I'm going to be back in September with a whole new series and some very, very exciting news. Have a lovely summer, everybody. Bye-bye.